Horror fans these days should be heartened with the availability of Shudder Channel, providing original movies on regular basis to complement the bigger studio offerings. Recently, Shudder gave us a couple of horror movies of contrasting setting and storytelling techniques, but shared the same underlying supernatural threat of a hellspawn burrowing inside thousands of feet in the soil, waiting for the opportunity to ascend and unleash their brutalities on the human world. We begin with The Mortuary Assistant with director Jeremiah Kipp, based on the video game developed by Brian Clark, who together with Tracy Beebe had written the screenplay for this movie. The film started with Rebecca, a trainee in a mortuary, picking up the ropes to do embalming of a corpse on her own, therefore securing the full-time job in the establishment. From the onset, her boss Raymond had a demeanor that was hard not to be classified as a red flag, but obviously the new mortuary assistant had overlooked it as she was getting back to rebuild her life, as we could see her struggling with some addiction and had some family issues bothering her, especially with her late father. Despite being a man with a cold facade, Raymond actually cared enough to tell Becca to have a work-life balance. Therefore, when Becca was recalled for a work assignment one evening, it was highly suspicious and it became the start of a series of scary travails for our protagonist. Horror movies set in a mortuary or morgue was always going to win half the battle to spook the audience with just the settings itself. Andres of Riddle's The Autopsy of Jane Doe for me was the best example of a skin-crawling horror flick about people working in this environment. The sterile room, the smell of formalin, the corpse covered from head to toe on the cold metal table, a single movement, a slight sound out of the normal cacophony, even a flickering of the fluorescent light can throw you off the tangent. In Asian contexts, the morgue is always a prerequisite for horror set in a hospital. The one that truly scared me witless was Joko Anwar's grave torture when Adil, the younger brother who worked in an Islamic morgue. There was that scene with Adil being stalked by an undead, which really was a fuel for nightmare. In The Mortuary Assistant, director Kipp was trying to replicate the gameplay with the right aesthetic to supplement the storytelling. The production design helped with amplifying the dreary and ominous atmosphere, aggravating fear within Becca after that fateful embalming session at night. The cascade of fear-mongering by the benevolent spawns from hell led Becca through a juxtaposition of reality and scary hallucinations. Sad to say, this part of the movie had failed drastically despite the promising premise, and was starting to lose a lot of audience from what I have perceived from the negative reviews online. The psychological turmoil Becca was going through was comparable to recent female-oriented horror features like It Fits and Vicious. Willa Holland, stepdaughter of one Brian De Palma, assuming the role of Rebecca, did not possess the acting chops to make the audience engrossed in her predicament. Perhaps it was unfair to compare the perennial TV actress to someone like Ashley Greene, much less someone like Dakota Fanning. Holland was not helped by her co-star Paul Sparks, who felt like an amateur acting talent, with the character Raymond harboring some secrets which had major swerve in the story, yet the revelation was underwhelming, attributed to the lack of luster of the character himself. Sparks' mediocre performance aggravated to this glaring issue. The best part of the movie for me was the procedures of Becca handling the dead bodies before the embalming or cremation, but there was that much you can get from seeing one sequence of embalming fluid into the body before the next. The entity baiting on Becca was unsettling. Looking at it in broad daylight made it even creepier. The final exchange of words between Raymond and Becca felt like paving a way for a sequel, or building this world of The Mortuary Assistant. It did give me echoes of a movie like The Kingsman with how the next scene transpired. When I saw the marketing materials for The Mortuary Assistant, I was getting excited to watch it. I had no prior knowledge of the movie being based on a game property. Perhaps the reverence to the gameplay and the plot led to how dour the final film had become. The Mortuary Assistant is a 5.5 out of 10. Bodycam is a found footage movie from director Brandon Christensen and written by the director and his brother Ryan. The title simply implied the video camera anchored on the bodies of patrolling police officers to document the investigations and arrests of perps, be it the day or the night. Partners Bryce and Jackson answered a dire call for help from a domestic dispute. From the onset, they knew that it was the side of the town where the homeless people or people from the lowest ebb of the totem pole lived in, and they grouped these people as twerkers. After meandering through the house and its dark corners, The pair found the couple who lived in the house. The wife was behaving weirdly, while the husband was holding something wrapped in the towel, approaching Bryce. Thinking that he might be armed, Bryce decided to fire in self-defense, only to find out it was a dead infant the man was holding on to. In a panicky state, Jackson wanted to report to the authorities to come clean with what they had encountered, but his partner knew his chance to progress in the force would be jeopardized with this grave error in judgment. He decided to wipe out the recording through unlawful means and begged Jackson to help him through it by claiming the deaths were self-inflicted through the physical conflicts. Things started to fall amiss as other twerkers were claiming an entity by the name of Underman would be coming for the pair of police officers. We followed the journey within a few hours in a dire evening for both police officers, and we saw how Bryce was vexed by a cavalcade of personal issues like fearing for his career, concern for the safety of his pregnant wife, and perplexed by the warnings provided from the people he met along the way that the mysterious he will come to collect. It came to the point where the conundrum of doing the right thing for the police officers does not matter anymore. They were dealing with something so heinous and evil. It was not just a play-by-number occultist ritual, and this was not something that a reinforcement with enough firearms could resolve, as we would see in the climactic end. Bodycam reminded me of the segment Stock from director Jordan Downey in VHS Beyond, when a group of rogue police operatives raided the house where they suspected perpetrators had been kidnapping young children and imprisoned them in. There was no choreographed action set pieces in this movie like in Stock, and the film quality in that VHS segment was more polished than the more authentic Bodycam quality the law enforcement was provided with. That said, the parallels were blatant from these two features, even down to the ending part which involved a newborn. Fresh off a movie like Night Patrol, it felt like police officers dealing with supernatural threat was a bit of an overkill so early in the year 2026. There was a plot element shared between this movie and Night Patrol, with Officer Jackson's mother being a bit of a clairvoyant, and he had a sibling mired in some troubles. The foreboding dread of the places Jackson and Bryce visited, and the people they met along the way was something smoldering, and the found footages from their cameras and dashboard camera of their patrol car stitched up a coherent plot for audience to follow through. We came a long way in terms of camera's anti-motion sickness technology. That a hectic found footage movie like this did not remotely make me nauseous or giddy. The performances of various characters were decent, and for a movie like this which wanted to capture a bit of that cinema verite essence, subtlety is the way to go. At 70 odd minutes, the movie also felt compact and did not bear many lull moments for audiences to sit through. Director Brandon Christensen had been hardworking and churning out horror movies in consistent frequency, with Bodycam coming on the heels of a movie called Night of the Reaper. Perhaps I would check out a few of his movies with a more conventional cinematic presentation. If you enjoy a decent found footage movie with sufficient memorable scares, Bodycam might be the movie for you. This is a 7 out of 10 for me. It felt like the horror genre is progressing with real momentum for this year, and we were just uncovering the tip of the iceberg. If you like my double-built concise horror movies review, please help me by clicking the like button. Please share to your buddies who want to expand their taste in the horror genre as well. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get more weekly reviews from KK's Horror Heretics. Kevin Williamson is a revered figure in the horror movie scenes, with rejuvenating the young people's slasher subgenre in the 1990s, but can he bring his chops by making the 6th sequel in the Scream franchise? We also talk about Corin Hardy's Whistle in the same review. I guess when you are in the profession of dealing with dead people, whether you are a mortuary assistant or a police officer, there's a probability of encountering creatures from hell that had no hesitation to claim your lives.